We live in interesting times.
For the headlines,
President Duterte officially welcomed Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia at the Malacanang Palace.
after the press conference of the two leaders, the Malaysian Prime Minister also attended a state banquet in his honor hosted by President Duterte. There, the Malaysian leader expressed willingness to develop the Mindanao area.
President Trump said he'd be very, very disappointed with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un if reports that work is underway to rebuild a long-range rocket site are confirmed.
Huawei said it was suing the United States for barring government agencies from buying the Chinese telecom giant's products.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Don Orozco.
And now to the news. President Duterte officially welcomed Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia in the Malacanang Palace. The Malaysian leader is in the country for a 3-day official visit, his first in the country since he was re-elected as Malaysia's highest leader last year. Malaysia was instrumental in talks between the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front in 2001 and had been supportive of the Mindanao peace process. Let's take a listen.
Our discussions today augur well for other countries and for ours. As we review the milestone achieved in further strengthening our bilateral relations, we also chartered new paths of collaborative work. We resolved to ramp up cooperation to address security issues, particularly on terrorism, piracy and transnational crimes, including the fight against the illegal drug trade. That is, its further expansion serves our mutual interest as that of ASEAN and our region. As two of Asia's growth engines, intensified two-way trade and investments between the Philippines and Malaysia is needed to sustain progress and prosperity. Conscious about the synergy and dynamism of our private sectors, our government have agreed to further enhance trade, investment, infrastructure development. I thank the Prime Minister for Malaysia's robust support for our Build program. This includes Malaysian companies' active role in the development of the sustainable and smart metropolis of Clark Green City. The road leading to the historic transition to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region was paved in large part by the support of our international partners. Malaysia occupies a prominent role in its roster of friends. The good work will have to continue. We emphasized the importance of maintaining and promoting peace, security, stability, safety, and freedom of navigation and overflight over the South China Sea, as well as the peaceful settlement of disputes. We shared the international community's hope for peace and stability in the Korean Peninsula and noted efforts by the relevant parties to achieve progress through dialogue.
The President and I had a very productive discussion This afternoon, we discussed a wide range of issues on bilateral relations between Malaysia and the Philippines, as well as regional and international issues of mutual concern. We have very strong and close ties between our two countries at every level. I fully support the theme Partners for Progress, Brothers for Peace for this visit. Given the vast economic potential of this area, I believe with the establishment of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, or BAM, will help to boost economic ties between both countries. I therefore assured Mr. President of Malaysia's desire to continue to be of help in the development of Mindanao. I congratulated President Duterte on the success of the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law and the appointment of members into the Bangsamoro Transition Authority. We also discussed on economic matters. The trade between both countries are increasing, but they are largely in favor of Malaysia. I believe there is still room for improvement, and from my meeting with Mr. President, we would encourage private sectors from both countries to explore opportunities of collaboration and venture in new cooperation and investments. One of the main priority areas where cooperation could be exerted is to enhance connectivity, which is vital to promoting economic development. Malaysia and the Philippines have been actively involved in the BIM-EAGA, BIMP-EAGA, and could use this platform to assist the Mindanao Development Authority. The Philippines is ranked as Malaysia's 15th largest trading partner globally and 4th largest trading partner among ASEAN member countries. The President and I strongly believe that trade and investment flow between the two countries could be further strengthened in the coming years. I look forward to the finalization and the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Government of Malaysia and the Government of the Republic of the Philippines on cooperation in the field of health. I highlighted that Malaysia has been a favorite healthcare destination for the Philippines. The number of patients from the Philippines seeking treatment in Malaysia has been increasing over the years. The President and I also emphasized on the importance of education. We discussed programs for teachers and students in madrasas, especially in Mindanao. The President and I also talked about security matters. Malaysia is committed to take the necessary steps to address the serious issue of terrorism and violent extremism through the Trilateral Cooperation Agreement. Under this framework, Malaysia and the Philippines, together with Indonesia, have agreed to undertake unilateral maritime and air patrols to tackle the growing security challenges. We also exchanged views on a number of regional and international issues of mutual interest, such as the South China Sea and the cooperation within ASEAN.
Mahathir, at 93, is considered the oldest sitting state leader, while the 73-year-old President Duterte is considered the oldest elected Philippine president. Mahathir, who arrived in the country on Wednesday night, March 6, attended a forum with Filipino businessmen in Makati City on Thursday morning before meeting with Senate President Vicente Soto III and House Speaker Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo.
After the press conferences of the two leaders, the Malaysian Prime Minister also attended a state banquet in his honor hosted by President Duterte. Earlier, Mahathir lauded the Bangsamoro Organic Law, saying that the newly established Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, BARM, will help boost economic ties between the two countries. He said he is also hoping for the smooth transition of the ARM to the BARM. At the banquet, the Malaysian leader expressed willingness to develop the Mindanao area. Take a look.
We know that there can be misunderstandings and conflicts between nations. But as far as the Philippines and Malaysia are concerned, we have always been able to overcome such conflicts and retain the relationship at a very high level of friendship. We expect to do this. Malaysia expects to be friendly with the Philippines all the time. And also we expect that we can extend any help that we may be able to extend to resolve some of the problems faced in the south of the Philippines island, in Mindanao. We know that such insurgencies only weaken nations. Only peace brings about wealth and prosperity. As long as there is resort to conflicts and wars, there will be no development. And because there will be no development in a certain area, there will be disparities between different areas. And this, of course, stand in the way of good governance as well as development of the country. So to the extent that we can be useful, we are always ready to work with our neighbors in order to resolve problems which, in a way, of course, affect us as well. Whatever happens in a neighboring country will affect the neighbors just as well. So it is important that we become very concerned, and we should be ready to be of help in solving this problem if it is within our means.
Meanwhile, both leaders said that further expansion of economic cooperation serves both countries' mutual interest as that of ASEAN. President Duterte also thanked the Malaysian Prime Minister for their unrelenting support for development in the South, noting that the Mindanao's progress is the key for the Philippines and the Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East ASEAN Growth Area sub-region. Mahathir, a former strongman of Malaysia from 1981 to 2003, won for the second time as Malaysian Prime Minister last year. During his previous term as Prime Minister, he undertook bilateral official visits in the Philippines in the year 87 and 94.
Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad returns to Manila with a profound understanding and deep appreciation of the ties that bind the Philippines and Malaysia. He shares the conviction that realizing the promise of Mindanao is crucial for all stakeholders in the region. I remember vividly his visit to Davao City in 1994, when he, together when then President Fidel Ramos inaugurated the BIMP Iaga. For us Mindanaoans, it was a demonstration of confidence in the potentials of Mindanao and a bold investment for greater progress and prosperity for the region. But in order to achieve lasting peace and growth, the Philippines needed to succeed in securing lasting stability in Mindanao. Prime Minister Mahathir provided a vital support in this aspect, with Malaysia becoming a facilitator in the peace process. The ratification of the Bangsamoro Law this year signals the culmination of the years of painstaking efforts by many stakeholders within our country and by our friends in the international community, especially Malaysia. Certainly, there are still many challenges ahead, but positive transformation would not continue to happen had not the wheels not been pushed and made to run back then. And in this, the Prime Minister has been a key figure.
To other news now, a key party linked to Thailand's powerful Shinawat clan was dissolved Thursday by a court, just weeks before a general election over its ill-starred bid to front a princess as a candidate for premier. Thai Raksachat, which is tied to ex-premiers Thaksin and Yingluck Shinawat, proposed Princess Ubolratana as its prime ministerial candidate if its bloc emerged with a lower house majority after the March 24 election. It was an unprecedented move in a constitutional monarchy where royals are officially above the political fray, and prompted a rare public rebuke by her younger brother, King Maha Vajiralongkorn, who issued a royal command declaring the party's move inappropriate. Thai Raksachat was found guilty of committing an act hostile to the constitutional monarchy by the 9-member Constitutional Court, who unanimously voted to dissolve the party. Party executives, including 2 Shinawat family members, were also banned from politics for a decade. Thai Raksachat was established to back up the Shinawats' main political vehicle, the Pheu Thai, which won 2011 elections with a landslide. Its downfall is a major fillip to their army-allied rivals, who are fielding current junta leader Prayut Chan-o-cha as their candidate for premier.
President Donald Trump said Wednesday he'd be very disappointed with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un if reports that work is underway to rebuild a long-range rocket site are confirmed. Speaking to reporters, Trump said it's too early to see if the information about work at the North Korean site is true.
I would be very disappointed if that were happening. It's a very early report. We're the ones that put it out. But I would be very disappointed in Chairman Kim, and I don't think I will be, but we'll see what happens. We'll take a look. It'll ultimately get solved.
Trump and Kim met last week in Vietnam to negotiate on getting rid of North Korea's nuclear arsenal, but the summit broke up early with no progress. Researchers say that rebuilding of the facility in question has been underway since the summit and may have started before the Vietnam meeting. Researchers said that the activity may be intended to demonstrate resolve in the face of U.S. rejection of the North's request for an easing of sanctions in return for some dismantlement of nuclear weapons infrastructure. Kim had agreed to shutter the Sohae missile testing site at a summit with the South's President Moon Jae-in in Pyongyang as part of confidence-building measures. And satellite pictures in August had suggested workers were already dismantling an engine test stand at the facility. But the CIS said building activity is now evident at the Sohae Satellite Launching Station, from where Pyongyang launched satellites in 2012 and in 2016.
In other news, 18 people were injured when a grenade exploded at a bus stop in the Indian city of Jammu in the restive state of Jammu and Kashmir, according to police. Police said a grenade was hurled by an unidentified person, which exploded under a bus in the main terminal. 4 people are critical. The bus was about to leave to Panthankot City in Punjab. The blast comes amid heightened tensions between India and Pakistan after 40 Indian troops were killed on February 14 in the part of Kashmir that New Delhi controls, sparking the biggest standoff between the countries in years. The February 14 suicide bombing was the deadliest attack in Kashmir on Indian forces in a 30-year insurgency by militants wanting independence or to be part of Pakistan, in which tens of thousands have died. India has long accused Islamabad of supporting the insurgents, and the attack was claimed by Jaish-e-Mohammed, a militant group based in Pakistan. In response, India said it carried out on February 26 airstrikes on what it called a GEM training camp at Balakot inside Pakistan. Jammu is largely a Hindu-dominated area of the disputed Himalayan region that is ruled by India and Pakistan in parts, but claimed by both. The news continues here on Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset.
alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Health is our most important.
Convicted Australian Cardinal George Pell faced a fresh legal challenge Thursday after a civil suit was filed against him for further alleged abuse in the 70s. Pell, the most senior Vatican official to be found guilty of child sex crimes, is currently in detention awaiting sentencing for assaulting two choir boys in Melbourne in the 1990s. He maintains his innocence and an appeal is scheduled for June. Pell had also faced trial on charges of abusing boys in a swimming pool in his hometown of Ballarat in Victoria State decades before. But the case was dropped by Australian prosecutors after his conviction. Local media had reported one alleged victim in the Ballarat case was upset. The criminal case was dropped and planned to take civil action. Victoria Supreme Court officials said Thursday that the plaintiff, who cannot be named for legal reasons, lodged the suit Wednesday against Pell, authorities in Victoria, Child Services, and the Sisters of Nazareth, which ran the boys' home where he lived at the time. The court did not release further details of the suit.
In related news, the first video has emerged of police confronting the disgraced Australian Cardinal George Pell in 2016, with allegations he sexually abused two choir boys. The 77-year-old is facing up to 50 years in jail after being convicted on 5 counts of sexual and indecent assault of the two choir boys shortly after he became an archbishop. And we want to warn you that this video contains sound bites with descriptive allegations of the child sex crime. Take a look.
I volunteered to take part in this interview because, as I understand, allegations made against me going back decades are made in vague and imprecisely defined circumstances and time frames, so that it's practically impossible to demonstrate a negative unless I'm given sufficient details to enable me to search the past and show them to be wrong. The allegations are products of fantasy. I'm told that they relate to two choir boys in '96, when I, as Archbishop of Melbourne, was in the process of actually reformulating the Church's approach to allegations of child sexual abuse.
You've planted yourself, and this is all what's been alleged. Okay, instead of saying alleged straight off, this is the story. Planted yourself in a spot between these two boys and the doorway in the sacristy room
After Sunday Mass.
Yes, yes, and in effect prevented them from leaving the room. Now, the boys knew they were in a fair bit of trouble, and that at that time you've moved your robes to one side and exposed your
Stop it.
You're still at this stage standing with your back to the door.
What a load of absolute and disgraceful rubbish. Completely false. Madness. This is in the sacristy at the cathedral after Sunday Mass.
Yes.
What need I say any more? What a load of garbage and falsehood and deranged falsehood.
Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Lyon, the most senior French cleric caught up in the global pedophilia scandal that has racked the Catholic Church, was convicted of failing to report abuse and handed a 6-month suspended jail on Thursday. A court in Lyon in southeast France ruled that Cardinal Philippe Barbarin, who was not present to hear the verdict, was guilty of failing to report the abuse of a minor between 2014 and 2015. The suspended nature of the jail term means he will not serve time behind bars, and Barbarin's lawyers announced immediately that he would appeal the judgment. Barbarin, 68, faced long-standing allegations from victims groups that he failed to report a priest under his authority to police after learning of abuse which took place in the 80s and 90s. He was on trial along with 5 former aides at a time when the Catholic Church has been hit by abuse scandals in countries as far as the field of Australia, Brazil, Chile, and the United States. The aides were all found not guilty either because the alleged crimes were too old or unproven. The case broke 3 years ago, and lawyers for 9 adult plaintiffs, former Boy Scouts allegedly abused by priest Bernard Prainat, took legal action. Since the abuse related to acts committed before 1991, prosecutors had declined to press charges because of the statute of limitations. But during the trial, victims accused Barbarin of being aware of the abuse allegations from at least 2010 and then trying to cover up the scandal under orders from Vatican from the year 2015.
Je veux espérer que l'étape suivante.
R&B superstar R. Kelly was taken into custody again for failing to pay, this time for child support, just weeks after he was detained on sex abuse charges. The singer was unable to come up with the $161,000 he owes in payments to his ex-wife and their 3 children, and a judge in Chicago, where Kelly lives, ordered him arrested. It was the latest legal setback for the 52-year-old music star, who pleaded not guilty on February 25 to 10 counts of aggravated criminal sex abuse against 4 victims, 3 of them minors. Kelly's representatives say he is having financial difficulties despite an award-winning career that once produced hits such as I Believe I Can Fly. He has been the target of a boycott campaign amid mounting allegations of sex abuse. Kelly was prepared Wednesday to pay $50,000 to $60,000 of what he owed, according to his publicist, but the judge required the full amount. Kelly, who arrived in court in a blue business suit, as you see here, was expecting to leave, Johnson said. Instead, he was taken into custody and escorted from the courtroom by a police officer. He will likely remain in jail until next court hearing on March 13.
Mr. Kelly, will you? Well, he had back pay of $161,037, and we were coming expecting that he was going to come and make an arrangement, but they wanted the entire amount. He can't pay, as you know, he hadn't worked in a long time. He can't book shows, he can't do anything. There's been a lot of things going on in Mr. Kelly's life, lawsuits, all the things that are happening, and he just didn't have the money. And so he didn't have $161,000. So we tried to work some things out. It didn't work out, and hopefully we'll get him out by Wednesday next week. Depressed, deflated, upset, and this is he's upset about it.
Kelly owes $161,000 and is required to pay the full amount, with the next court date in case set for March 13. Kelly pleaded not guilty February 25 to 10 counts of aggravated criminal sex abuse against 4 victims, 3 of them minors. He was freed on $100,000 bail the same day after spending 3 nights in jail.
I take care of children. I need.
Meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy in Canada on Thursday extended its condolences to the bereaved family of a Filipino teen who died after a random break-in at their home in Winnipeg, Canada. Our heartfelt sympathies go to the Adaw family on the tragic and senseless killing of Jimboy Jaime Jr. There are no words to ease their pain and sorrow over the loss of such a promising young man. May he rest in peace, the embassy statement read. Jaime Adaw Jr., fondly called Jimboy, was not able to survive an assault following the break-in at their home in Winnipeg. According to reports, he was with his grandmother when a 29-year-old man forced his way into their house on McGee Street on Sunday night local time. The 17-year-old boy was attacked by the intruder as he was speaking with the dispatchers. Authorities arrived while the assault was ongoing and shot the suspect. Both Jimboy and the intruder were rushed to the hospital. However, Adaw was not able to survive, the suspect still on critical condition. Speaking to CBC News, Jimboy's parents Imelda and Jaime said they want to remember him as a hero and as a fighter as they saw just for justice.
Four people were killed, 9 wounded when a car bomb exploded near a restaurant in central Mogadishu, according to police, as the Al-Shabaab jihadist group claimed responsibility. The restaurant was near a security checkpoint in the Somali capital, not far from the presidential palace. The road in which the blast occurred houses eateries and tea shops. Al-Shabaab said it had planted the bomb, claiming in a statement that its fighters targeted one of the checkpoints of the palace apostates. The nationalist Islamist group linked to Al-Qaeda is fighting an armed insurrection in Somalia against what it sees as heretic and foreign influence. President Abdullah Mohammed, elected in February 2017, has declared a state of war against the group. Yes, Don?
The news continues. We'll be right back.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant effort to seek ways to take care of it. That includes professional medical help from the best available. The Manila Beijing Medical Associated Incorporated is known as one of the most specialized
Business news, Huawei said Thursday it was suing the United States for barring government agencies from buying the Chinese telecom giant's products, opening a legal front in its battle against American warnings that they could serve as a tool for Chinese intelligence services. Huawei said the suit was filed in a U.S. District Court in Plano, Texas, challenging a 2019 U.S. defense bill that prevents U.S. government agencies from buying the company's equipment and services, as well as working with third parties that are Huawei customers.
The U.S. Congress has repeatedly failed to produce any evidence to support its restrictions on Huawei products. Still, the U.S. government is sparing no effort to smear the company and mislead the public about Huawei. Huawei seeks remedies, including a declaratory judgment that the restrictions targeting Huawei are unconstitutional, and a permanent injunction against these restrictions. If this law is set aside, as it should be, Huawei can bring more advanced technologies to the United States and help it build the best 5G networks.
Problems with Washington and its allies globally.
Guo said the company was seeking unspecified damages. The U.S. government is sparing no effort to smear the company. He said at a news conference at the tech giant's corporate headquarters in southern Chinese city of Shenzhen. Guo even countered that the U.S. government has hacked their servers.
The U.S. government has long branded Huawei a threat. It has hacked our servers and stolen our emails and source code.
The lawsuit says the legislation is an unconstitutional exercise of executive and/or judicial power and deprive Huawei of a fair hearing to rebut the allegations against it. A law recently enacted by Beijing that obliges Chinese companies to aid the government on national security has added to the concerns about Huawei. The United States has warned that Huawei's equipment could be manipulated by China's communist government to spy on other countries and disrupt critical communications, and is urging nations to shun the company. This comes just as the world readies for the rollout of ultra-fast 5G telecommunications, an advance in which Huawei will play a key role and which will allow widespread adoption of next-generation technologies like artificial intelligence.
Former Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn left his Tokyo detention center Wednesday after more than 100 days in custody following a shock court decision granting him bail of 1 billion yen or $9 million. Now, throughout his more than 3 months in custody, Ghosn, 64, has loudly proclaimed his innocence, stressing in a recent statement he was totally committed to vigorously defending himself against meritless and unsubstantiated accusations. Now, he faces 3 charges, 2 of underreporting his salary in key documents to shareholders, and 1 of attempting to transfer personal investment losses to Nissan. The Franco-Lebanese Brazilian executive had applied for bail twice without success. Both times the court judged him a flight risk who might destroy evidence. Now, seemingly frustrated by the lack of progress, Ghosn shook up his legal team and replacing his defense lawyer, who was a former prosecutor, with a hotshot lawyer known as the Razor for his mental sharpness. This lawyer, as you see in this picture, is Junichiro Hironaka. He has an unusually strong record of securing acquittals in a country where almost every trial ends in a conviction. The conditions proposed by lead defense lawyer Junichiro Hironaka did the trick after 2 failed bail bids by the previous attorney. Those were rejected by the court on grounds that Ghosn was a flight risk who could destroy evidence. Now, prosecutors had strongly opposed his release, arguing that he could seek to contact others involved in the case. Now, Ghosn may have walked free from the Tokyo detention center that was his unwanted home for more than 100 days, but there will still be significant restrictions on his movement while he is on bail. He must stay in a residence in Tokyo designated by the court. A surveillance camera will be installed at the door. Footage from this camera must be submitted to the court periodically. And he's not under house arrest, however, and is free to go outside to do his shopping. He can even take short overnight domestic trips, but needs the court's permission if he wishes to be absent for 3 days or longer. Now, Ghosn's prolonged stay behind bars had shone the spotlight on Japan's controversial justice system and prompted criticism internationally and from rights groups.
罪を認めるまで身柄を拘束しておくというのはおかしいのではないかということが日本の社会の中でも徐々に問題にされるようになってきた。それが今回ゴーン氏の事件で国際的にも 大きな批判を集めたことで、一層日本の社会の中でも大きな問題としてこれから認識されていくと思います。ゴーン氏の事件の実態を見て、この事件はおよそそんなに100日を超えて、百数十日、150日、200日、そんな長期間身柄拘束するような事件ではないと。そんな検察の主張自体に対してですね、裁判所がやっぱり相当程度疑問を持ったからこそ、今回の保釈の決定に至ったんじゃないかと、私はそう思ってます。今後はおそらく検察が提示する事実、検察が、出してくる証拠自体が、相当希薄なものだと私は予想してますし、事件公判の流れはおそらくこれからどんどん、ゴーン氏の側に有利な方向に向かっていくんじゃないかと予想してます。
In other business news, European Union and British negotiators conceded Wednesday that talks aimed at getting their Brexit agreement through Parliament in London have been difficult as a solution remained elusive 3 weeks before Britain's exit. EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier reported the continued deadlock to the European Commission, the EU's executive arm, after meeting his British counterparts late Tuesday. Here's spokesman Margaritis Shinas.
Touched upon Brexit in what is a regular agenda point by now. Michel Barnier, our chief negotiator, was present and informed the commissioners that while the talks take place in a constructive atmosphere, discussions have been difficult. No solution has been identified at this point that is consistent with the withdrawal agreement, including the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland, which, as you all know, will not be reopened.
Prime Minister Theresa May struck with withdrawal deal with the EU in November, but the British Parliament overwhelmingly voted it down in January. MPs continue to challenge the agreement, especially the backstop designed to keep the border open between EU member Ireland and British Northern Ireland after the Brexit. Barnier insisted on Wednesday that the legally binding withdrawal agreement will not be reopened. The EU says the talks in Brussels are focused on drafting a separate document to placate doubters in London. In 2017, Britain invoked Article 50 of EU law, triggering a 2-year countdown to Brexit that ends at 11 p.m. on March 29. Both sides are furiously trying to steer away from a dreaded no-deal divorce that could wreak havoc on global markets and create more chaos. The OECD on Wednesday chopped Britain's growth forecast from 1.4 to 0.8, which would mark the first time it had fallen below 1% since 2009 following the global economic crisis. However, the OECD emphasized that even this start projection was based on the assumption of a smooth Brexit.
Europe's financial system faces potential risks to its stability arising from a no-deal Brexit. This is according to the Bank of England. They warned this on Tuesday as it extended its weekly lending facilities to include euros. With just 22 days to go until Britain is set to leave the EU, the BOE said businesses and households across Britain and the EU were vulnerable. The BOE also said it had activated a swap line with the European Central Bank, which will provide euros in exchange for British pounds. Brussels and London are furiously trying to steer away from the dreaded no-deal divorce that could wreak havoc on global markets.
To be absolutely clear, we still see that there would expect to be a material economic shock. Half of the businesses are straight up reporting to us that they're not prepared for a no-deal Brexit. Of the half that we talked to, and we talked to thousands of businesses up and down the country, but as we emphasized today, and I'll stop here, to be absolutely clear, we still see that there would expect to be a material economic shock.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset, and it
hanggang alas 2 ng hapon.
In our community news, INC members from Central London donate to food banks. Grace Rivera reports.
When you hear the headlines of malnourished children and families without food, you think of images in far-off third-world countries. Here in the United Kingdom, which is supposed to be a rich country, surprisingly, the use of food banks is on the rise. Due to a number of factors, most recently, a rollout of a new welfare benefits system called the Universal Credit. Normal working people are finding it hard to cope with daily expenses, and most cases use food banks here in the United Kingdom. Research released by the Trussell Trust charity this month showed the use of food banks had increased by 52% in areas where universal credit had been in place for a year or more. As part of the Iglesia ni Cristo's mission to help those in need, INC members from Central London continue to support their local food bank in London. Members carried heavy loads of bags and boxes filled with food to donate to the Camden Community Food Box. INC members, young and old, despite the rain and cold, were eager to gather in the center of London to take part in this event. Mark Hall, one of the representatives of the charity, described the Iglesia ni Cristo's donation as the most food he had ever seen donated to any charity by any one organization. A representative of the local council, Paul Tomlinson, was also in attendance and declared that the members have made a positive impact on the community with this act of kindness. INC members also shared their faith. Mark was uplifted by the hymns of praises and said he would definitely return and is willing to learn more about the Church of Christ. Paul also mentioned how he truly felt welcomed by the INC members. INC members continuously take part in acts of kindness by helping to fight poverty, here in London and throughout the world. Reporting from London, I'm Grace Rivera for EBC United Kingdom, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Grace Rivera from our London Bureau.
And before we go, let me just say hi to our, regular viewer, Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis, Chairman of the PCCI, and of course the family of Jerry and Ruth Purificacion.
Hello, good evening. Hello.
So good evening. And again, before I go, let me remind you, don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Don Orozco, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for taking the time out to help me out. Thank you so much. And I'm Alma Angeles, and we are 1 with 25.